Hello friends, welcome to my channel Economica. I Dr. Gopal B. Saraswat welcome you all to my channel. Today the topic for discussion is regression analysis. So let's start the video. First of all, we must to understand what is regression analysis. Then we are going to discuss simple and multiple linear equations, result interpretation assumptions, the concept of dummy variables and logistic regressions. So in today's video, I am just going to highlight upon what is regression analysis. In upcoming videos, I am going to discuss simple and multiple linear regression as well as the logistic regression. Regression. Regression was introduced by Francis Galton. Francis Galton given a law of universal regression, and he identified that there was a tendency for tall parents to have tall children and short parents to have a short children. The average height of children born of the parents of given height tend to move toward the average height in the population as a whole. The height of the children of usually tall or unusually short parents tend to move toward the average height of the population. This you can clearly see from the Galton's data, where he proposed that law of universal regression shows that the parents those are short in their height tend to have children with the increase in their height, or the height are larger for the children those are having short parents. So this is identification made by a Galton from the law of universal regression, and he found that the average height of the son of a group of tall fathers was less than their father's height, and the average height of the son of group of short fathers was greater than their father's height. This is the Galton law of regression, which first time introduced the regression concept. So what is regression? Regression analysis is concerned with the study of dependence of one variable, we call it dependent variable, on more or other variables, we call it explanatory variables or independent variables. For example, suppose we want to predict the income of a person. So we have three things. We have degree or the education of the person, work hours, the number of hours that person works, and the age of the person. So these three things will let us examine the income of the person. So here we have three independent variables like degree, work hours and age, and one dependent variable we call is income. So these are independent and this is dependent. So here regression help us to measure influence of independent variables, which is education or the degree of the person, work hours and the age, on the dependent variable, which is income. This relationship also help us to predict income, which is dependent variable, by using the independent variables like education, work hours and age. Use of regression analysis. First use of regression is in influence measurement and another one is in prediction. Marketing director of a company, let's say, wants to know demand of a company's product and its relationship with advertisement expenditure. So such a study is only possible using regression analysis, where we may try to identify if the company make a change of 1% in the total advertisement expenses, what impact it is going to have upon the demand, quantity demand of the product. So this is influence measurement. Second, prediction. Let's say an agronomist wants to interested to know or study about the dependence of a particular crop yield, let's say wheat, on temperature, rainfall, amount of sunshine and fertilizer. So this means that independent variables are temperature, rainfall, amount of sunshine and fertilizer. How these four is going to impact the crop yield of wheat. So we want to predict the output by using these four independent variables. So this is also a case of regression analysis where we are using regression analysis for prediction. Regression versus causation. Although regression deals with the dependence of one variable on other variable, it does not necessarily imply causation. Kendall Stewart says a statistical relationship, however strong and however suggestive, can never establish causal connection. The idea of causation must come from outside of statistics and ultimately from theory or other concepts. So this means that regression, yes, it shows a relationship, but it necessarily could not be infer as a causation. For causation to prove, you require to have a theory which is built upon a certain facts, logics, and that prove that this one is causing this one. Terminologies and notation in regression. One is dependent variable, another is independent variable, or sometimes we call it explanatory variable. So dependent variable, the synonyms are explained variable, predictant, regressant, response, endogenous, outcome and controlled variable. On the other hand, we may call explanatory variable as independent, predictor, regressor, stimulus, exogenous, covariate and control variable. So these are the many dependent independent synonyms and terminologies we generally use in the regression. Next one is forms of regression. There are three forms of regression we have: simple linear regression, multiple linear regression and logistics regression. Simple linear regression. Simple linear regression is shows relationship of one independent variable with one dependent variable. Let's say age of the person and its relationship with income. So we can denote this relationship using a regression equation, and regression equation is y is equal to b1 plus b2 xi. This means that y is dependent variable which is income and age is independent variable b1 and b2. b1 is intercept and b2 is slope. Let's discuss this equation we have. So here income is dependent, age is independent, b1 is intercept and b2 is slope. So here from this equation we may build a relationship of income and age, and this is what the example of simple linear equation. In case of multiple linear equation, we have more than one independent variable. For example, education of the person, work hours and age of the person and its relationship with a dependent variable called income. In case of logistic linear equation, we may have a different kind of relationship of independent and dependent, where we are trying to find out the person's happiness by its education, work hours and age of the person. So here we try to find out the happiness of the person by using three independent variables. This is the case of logistic regression. Here one thing is to note is the dependent variable is a happiness which cannot be quantified, but The independent variables are a mix of all sort of variables. So this is a categorical variable, dependent variable, which may say, are you happy? Yes or no. So in logistic regression, dependent variable is a categorical variable. So we understand three types of level of measurement and its relationship with three different types of forms of regression. In case of simple linear regression, we have two variables, independent and dependent. Here independent variable can be a ratio or interval scale variable and in even ordinal or nominal variable. In case of multiple linear regression, our variable could be the independent variables could be a ratio, interval, ordinal or nominal scale variable and so as our dependent variable. But in case of logistic regression, my independent variable can be a ratio, interval, ordinal and nominal, but the dependent variable should be either an ordinal or a nominal variable. So these are the different forms of regression, and when to use which form of regression is purely based upon the judgment of the researcher and the type of data we have. Either we are having a nominal, ordinal, ratio and interval scale data. On the basis of the dependent variable characteristics and independent variable characteristics, we decide which regression forms to use. So this is all from my side. Thank you for watching. Thank you.